morning, folks. Today is January 31st, 2025. This is Coffee with Community Services, Alta California Regional Center's weekly service provider meeting. My name is John Decker, the Director of Community Services at Alta. As usual, we will do an introduction of staff and get into our agenda for the day. I'll start with the agenda. We'll have our Deaf Culture 101 and Sign of the Week with Michael. We're going to give folks an update on our office move. I think Scott, or one of the HCBS specialists, is going to share the step flyer. It looks like Scott will. And then I'm going to make Scott a co-host as well so he can do that. We are going to have a spotlight with Pride as well. So they're going to do a spotlight today. We're going to give an update on our community meeting that's coming up, our ILS vendor fair that is coming up, and of course, discussions about rate reform as well. And if there's anything additional for our agenda, please don't hesitate to drop it in the chat. All right. And I see my friends from Shift Care here. Refresh my recollection, gentlemen. Do I have you on our agenda for today, or are you just joining us for today?
Yeah, you have us on the agenda for today. Should only be about 10 minutes wherever you can squeeze us.
Perfect. Yes, there we go. Shift Care as well. As again, we do this every single week, so I want to make sure I get everyone on here. Heidi, you are a co-host, so you can share your screen, and then I will make Connor and Casey as well. All right. Lots of staff on today. We have from our Community Services Department, Carly and Jason on, and Marty. We have our manager, Michelle, on. We have Boyd, Christine, and Scott as well this morning. Good morning. I see Tom and our manager, Helen, on. Good morning. Beverly and Ethan as well. Good morning to you too. From Community Services, I see Yvette on here and Alejandra, and of course you're going to hear from Michael with his presentation shortly. We've got Rhonda on from our housing department there, our single person housing department. And we've got Shauna and Virginia on with Christy and my assistant Zach too. Our specialized services and supports manager Jordan is on. Good morning, Jordan. And I also see Mason, Sharon, and Isabella from our community services department. Hubert, our emergency coordinator, and our director of client services, Michelle Johnson, is on as well. I think I grabbed most folks. Excuse me, and I will throw it over to Michael now, and I will spotlight you.
Perfect. Hello. Good morning, everyone. So for our signs of the week, these are going to help you if someone is deaf or hard of hearing and they're signing very quickly. So we'll do please, slow down, and again. So the first one's fairly easy. So flat hand on the chest going in a circular motion is please. Our second sign is slow. So again, that flat hand going up the arm. And then again. So you're going to have your dominant hand bent, going to tap onto your non-dominant hand again. So we'll do that together. Please, slow, and again. Perfect. Good job. And I will send a link as well if you'd like to practice those. Okay, now for Deaf Culture 101. We're going to talk today about deaf art. So deaf art is a way for deaf people to express their identity, culture, and experiences It will often show themes like communication, deaf pride, and struggles with the hearing world. Some common symbols that you'll see in deaf art that you might recognize. There are 4 big ones. You'll see hands and actual American Sign Language signs. So those will show the importance of sign language. You'll see things to do with eyes and vision. So you'll see that in deaf art, so that'll highlight the visual communication. The third is barriers and isolation. So that really puts a spotlight on the struggles with the hearing world and that oppression that might be seen. And the fourth is deaf pride. So really celebrating deaf culture and deaf community. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show you some examples of different deaf art. There are many, but I have just picked a few to be able to show you. I figure some of you might really enjoy art or be interested in what I mean by deaf art. Making sure the interpreter can still see me. Okay. So this is called Cherish Sign Language. This piece of artwork. It's by Nancy Rourke. And it is a portrait of George the Dietz. So a long time ago, probably in 1913, he preserved sign language. He knew how valuable it was going to be. So this sign is to cherish. So you can see that in the picture that was painted, him signing cherish sign or preserve signs. This is showing an example of resistance art. So this is showing the struggle with autism and communication barriers. So there's another time that we will discuss autism, but that's kind of like someone who feels that someone who is deaf is lesser than. So you see they drew the hands with handcuffs and the broken fingers. So that's an example of back in the 1800s, about 1880, sign language was banned. They were not allowed to use their hands. They had to be oral and learn how to speak. So this visual art representation of the handcuffs and not being able to sign really represents that barrier. So this is an example of a celebratory art or an affirmation art, really showing that pride. So all these pictures are the same artist. So this is Chuck Baird. That first picture, I don't know if you remember a while ago, I taught you the sign for art, which looks like this. So you can see the hands in that painting are showing art. You see it's clearly drawn with that beam of light, how you would sign the word art. So adding that visualization, having the pens, the paint is very powerful. That second picture that you see of the coyote, and then you have the clouds on top. So coyote is signed like this. So it's 2 movements. You start here and then pull out. So that cloud is signing coyote. So there's lots of examples of this affirmation art. So this is an example of Surdism. So this is a newer art style that mixes surrealism. And that will So they'll have the deaf experience and surrealism. So the example of maybe adding deaf identity. So with crayons, you have two different crayon boxes. And you can see it says deaf identity crayons. In 1899, those crayons have different labels on each one. So you see one says dummy, one says lip read, one says deaf and mute, one says hearing impaired, handicapped, oral, deaf and mute, freak. So those identities back in the day were so negative, but now it's changed and we have different identities. So we have CODA, child of deaf adult, seeing, deaf and blind, latent deaf, hard of hearing, a signer, and deaf. So this art representing the way that hearing individuals decided to identify deaf individuals versus how the deaf identify themselves. So these are a few of many, many different examples of deaf art. But why does deaf art matter? So deaf art really can help to share deaf experiences without having to use spoken language or written words. It spreads awareness, it helps to build identity, and it really keeps deaf history alive. And that's all for today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Michael. You never know what you will learn when you attend Coffee with Community Services and what you will be exposed to. Hey, Michael, while you were presenting, I looked up a place where you can purchase prints by Chuck Baird, and so I'm going to drop that in the chat if anyone is interested in seeing more of that artwork that he shared, or possibly purchasing a print for your office. Looks like you can get a 16 by 20 for around $300 on Canvas if you're interested. All right, I would like to jump from there actually directly into some rate reform information and updates, if that's okay with folks. And I want to start with some newer information that has been posted on DDS's website. So I'm going to be sharing my screen. At this point, I hope folks are familiar. There's a lot of you on right now, but you're familiar with how you get to this information on DDS's website from the Rate Reform tab. So I will say specifically, Michelle Duchesne and I have been waiting for the department to update information related to the provider directory and what, how individuals are going to be categorized, or how service providers are going to be categorized. So in here are the lists for the service provider directory, which is tied to your ability to receive the quality incentive and the last 10% of the benchmark rates for your services. Again, the services are sent to us at a 90% and as well as a verification that you've completed your activities for the rate study, which then can bring you to the 100%. We've been updating all the lists that we have. So again, those vendor lists that were all completed before November 29th, we have had those for a few weeks now. We were able to import those, but we know that there was a number of service providers that have fallen into some of these other additional areas. Our understanding, again, for those service providers that logged in and had challenges or issues, or those that like they had some data that was missing. I noticed some of our large service providers that have like a number of service codes were within this list here, where you had tried to get into the data directory, and I don't know if it was a challenge that the department had in linking all of your different service codes across maybe multiple different regional center services, but I noticed that was some of the ones that were in there. Again, though, that group does qualify that for the full reimbursement rate back to January 1. That is what the department has said. So we don't know that we have all of your information yet from people that are in these groups 2 and group 3. But when we receive them all, just being very clear that you are eligible for the full rate back to your January 1 date, which means, as we've said before, your transitional rates may not have been absolutely correct, and we may need to do some retroactive payments. I will say Michelle Ramirez brought that up during our Provider Advisory Committee meeting earlier this month, and that is the case probably for a number of providers just because we don't have assurance that we've got all of the quality incentive information over to us quite yet. Then there's another list of people. The other list of people are the ones that had not completed any of the steps previously. So with that, for those that had not completed any of the steps, when those steps are completed, you're going to be eligible to receive that last 10% upon that period moving forward. So it would not retroactively go back to January 1, but instead it would be upon that completion certification by the department that it's done, then it becomes eligibility at that point. Then there is this other list, and we thought, Michelle, that we were going to get a directive about this, but all new vendor numbers created from September through December will be eligible for the quality incentive payment to reach 100% of their rate effective January 1. Any new vendors, vendor numbers created after January 1 will be eligible for the quality incentive once their data has been loaded into the provider directory. All new vendors will receive a confirmation that their data is loaded into the provider directory and do not need to contact the support team. So we are looking at new service providers coming on at the 100% level here. We're going to be working with the department to ensure that we get that information over. But regardless, you're going to be eligible from it from the beginning of your vendorization when we're doing new vendorization. So again, we'll be discussing this with service providers, but now is about the time where folks are going to start looking in and trying to do their billing for the month of January. So we met with Robin. Well, I will just say we've been working the most that we ever have in our accounting and community services departments, at least in my last 14 years, and dealing with some of you remember a long time ago the 4.25% reduction a long time ago, and then how that got reinstated. You've seen us do alternative services in the last few years. Nothing has compared to the activities that we've had to do in our accounting department, and we're continuing to do in our community services department to implement the rate study. And most recently, lots of late evenings with our staff to try to get all of the rates on. So that being said, we know that already 1,300 rates have been updated, but we have so many service providers and so many rates. So throughout the day, they're going to be continuing to update them. So making sure that when our service providers go in to do their billing, we've got things as updated as possible. So stay tuned. We're going to be meeting on Monday to discuss the service acknowledgement forms. So there's going to be the acknowledgement forms that you will all be receiving. And so we are going to be working on Monday. We're going to be connecting with a couple of service providers to show them kind of what they look like first. So if you're part of our board or our provider advisory committee, expect that you might get reached out to by us to give you kind of a sample of the acknowledgement letters so we can just take a look and ensure that it makes sense to our service providers before it goes out to 1,300 of you. Eric, yes, please.
Just two questions. One, on those acknowledgements, and maybe you said this at another meeting I've forgotten, is it going to clearly say where you stand with QIP? As part of
Yes.
that? Okay, so you'll be able to identify at that same letter not only what rate study codes you're going to, but okay. So that's number one.
And then also we've included hold harmless as well, so that there's actually like a thing in there for hold harmless. Again, I will tell you this is going to be a topic of conversation that will be at least 10 minutes long next Friday. Because we're going to be probably sharing with you all the form that has gone out by that point and making sure everyone understands exactly why we have the information in there. regional centers have the ability to customize these forms based off of what they deem to be their kind of business practices. And so we are looking at adding some mutual indemnification language to these forms that kind of cover both service providers and regional centers, which we haven't done that kind of across the board, but this is an excellent opportunity for service providers to have that and for the regional center. So these are going to be things that we're going to be talking about more in depth next week because, again, we want to ensure that we have something that it can really keep you from having to do a program design update, right? Vendorization update, and is kind of an all-in-one document, but is also easy to understand for everyone too.
My second question is, I've been trying to be patient with, DDS working through these things and not overwhelming the service provider directory. But, for a number of us, we had more than 5 vendorizations, so they categorize you as a large provider. So that those lists on DDS websites just say, still for at least us, maybe it's changed for somebody else, they just stay large provider. So while I see our organization's name on the list, it's hard for me to know that they're properly applying that QIP to the right vendor numbers, and I don't really know what to do. And we're getting pretty far along. So I don't want to just harass them because obviously they said they'll get to it, but is there some, I would feel better if I saw all the right vendor numbers. I could verify. I'm like, okay, that's now I know what to expect for all of my programs. Maybe that they don't have all my vendor numbers. Is there anything we should be doing specifically?
I would say wrap yourself in the comfort of knowing that you will receive retroactive payments back to January 1 if you're in step 2, which is missing incorrect information in the directory. So we know that many of you,
Step 3, which is submitted but not in.
or there you go, or step 3, for example. So Michelle has been right there with us with accounting. We've been seeing the things we've seen, like your main service has the QIP, but your 880 doesn't.
Yeah.
Like that type of stuff. And so for us, I think we tried to address those and just say you guys gave it your college try, and we didn't want to do retros for those because you're going to end up getting it anyways back to January. So I think for some of those we tried to catch, like for the QIPs that were missing for vendors that we knew had the QIP on like the main service it was attached to, because we that's what I was alluding to earlier. We noticed this was going on, was that it was some of you providers that had multiple of these vendorizations, not, you were falling into the not completed list. And so there's just so much data to manipulate because we have so many different lines of authorizations right now, and we're literally going through like every single one of them, which was like over 20,000 if I remember correctly, and we had 1,300 different service providers that we're looking at for auths right now.
Well, I know I'm hearing all this, and I know you guys have been doing really well, especially compared to some other regional centers I've heard. So just to verify, if it doesn't list your service provider number, your vendor number, but it has large provider, that's okay for now. There's nothing else for us to be done. But also what I've heard is that's not what I've heard.
No, I mean, you're correct. You're correct.
Okay. But also what I also believe is true that I want to verify is the hold harmless really covers your organization. So if your organization is under hold harmless, all of your corresponding vendor numbers should be under the hold harmless. So I don't need to worry, back to your point, that every single vendor number is captured. At some point, you're going to look at my agency. I'm not going to, one or two of my vendorization vendor numbers are not going to get lost in that QIP, right? Like they'd all be eligible.
Oh, they might get lost. Oh, well, not lost. Let me explain. I don't know that that's the same interpretation that we have. I think that you don't get the Q, like, I don't think that your hold harmless applies to every single rate that you have if it applies to one of your rates, if it's all under one company. Does that make sense? Like
no, I'm talking about the QIP.
Okay, cool. I thought I heard you say hold harmless. So
if I did, I messed up.
Yeah, so the QIP, that is for us at least, it seems like that would make sense because we know that you've already logged into the system. We know you did the survey, and we know that if people did that and like got that in there, they're basically going to be eligible for January 1. However, I cannot guarantee that we caught all of them. I just
Gotcha.
guarantee that we will over the next couple months because we're going to find out who's didn't get their QIP amount on a random 880 that's attached to an auth. Because for you guys, your billing is going to look the same. You're going to be submitting your billing. You're using transitional rates, so you're using your same rate methodologies. We're not switching over providers. That being said, we did our very best, and I believe that no daily rate providers got switched over to hourly for day program that did not intend to have it happen already. However, if that's something that you've noticed and there is still there's an issue with your authorizations, if you would not mind reaching out to us like ASAP on Monday and letting us know about that, because there's not a ton of time there where we can change things before trying to get you your check run done and stuff like that. And so I really hope that we didn't make a bunch of errors there, but just want to share that that was one of the things that we're working on. Okay, 880, let's see. Will the billing for January allow for billing per trip? I don't believe so because we haven't done any acknowledgement forms switching any of your vendorizations over to the new rate methodologies. And so I think right now your transitional billing will be the same way. Basically, like, I don't know if you have a daily rate or if you have it's just going to be, the rate's half of that. If the half of the daily is how they calculated your hold harmless, if that makes sense. Because it's 2 trips, basically, a daily rate, to and from. It's the ones where we have like monthly rates or we have mileage rates for 880s where I think it's going to take us another couple months to probably get all of those hold harmlesses worked out, right, Michelle Duchesne?
Yeah, I just wanted to update. So we will be working with anyone that has an 880 that has the mileage rate or any other additional rate besides the per trip rate to gather information needed to calculate your hold harmless. So Damien, our specialist, will be reaching out to you to start gathering that information.
Shout out to, just speaking of hold harmless, shout out to our transportation providers. I already know that a number of you have already turned your workbooks back in with information about your mileage and verifying that. So thank you very much. When it could please continue to do that. Right now we don't know what happens to transportation providers on April 1st if they have not submitted their hold harmless information. Our assumption is that you will receive the rate study rates, like the 90% of the benchmark, or 100% if you did the QIP. So these would be your remaining months to bill under your current rate methodologies. At least that's the guidance that we believe we have right now at this moment. And we just real quickly, Eric, I think we can briefly provide folks with an update that there is an ongoing work group that is going on related to transportation. We had UCP participated in it. It's a Breeze Transportation was in that meeting as well. And statewide, the department is looking at the transportation rates as they have been developed for the total miles and determining if they are going to be modifying, the rate methodologies right now. That's kind of where we're at, right, Eric? They're kind of gathering that information to make that determination.
Yeah, the hope is that if we can all do these hold harmless calculations correctly, DDS could actually see how good or bad their rates compare, which is very important. Those work groups are continuing. I don't, the only thing, we've got a long ways to go to coming up with a solution. It's challenging to fully incorporate everybody's ideas and come up with the right solutions and then get the consultants and the everybody involved. We have certainly submitted detailed proposals to the department. I gotta be careful about what I say. We have been able to raise this to the director of DDS and Pete Cervankas, and I know it's an issue, and we specifically asked not only that it be taken seriously, but that the department do something to acknowledge that this is something they're going to fix and work on, just so that we can alleviate concerns for providers who feel like, well, maybe it'll never come. So we did press for that. We do think that they're hoping to use a lot of the hold harmless period to get this right, though. So I'm not optimistic that we're going to get a quick fix. So I think the hold harmless period they're planning on using is, and that's about all I can probably share from Pete.
Yeah.
It is a need, and I just wanted to put those out there because that's what we've asked on behalf of transportation providers across the state.
There's a number of other providers as well as California Disability Services Association, the ARC of California, UCP Collaborative, former Assembly member Jim Frazier, ARC of California. There's a number of folks that are participating in this because I know I talk about it a lot in this meeting, but our world revolves around getting people to their services, and we have to have transportation providers to be able to do that. It is absolutely vital. And so I am supporting this group as much as I possibly can. I want to ensure that all of the information, a lot of the information that Eric is talking about right now, he's already shared directly with a number of our transportation providers, but it certainly makes a lot of sense to me that we have the most sustainable rates possible, and that there's ways in which the department can address the concerns of the entire industry that are going to be impacted. I feel like the hold harmless numbers should hit the department like a ton of bricks once they see them, because it's going to show the disparity between how they calculated this and how people are currently being compensated. That being said, I don't know that there's a ton of other hold harmless and other calculation questions. We've met with a number of service providers under service code 063, 055, which are more community-based type of day services, to talk about different types of options. We've received information from the department that they are going, I want to be very transparent about this because it came up on Wednesday at the Regional Center office hours and during the Chief Financial Officer's ARCA meeting yesterday. They're going to look very closely at these exemption requests. If a program looks like a day program, they are going to want someone categorized as a day program. So just sharing with folks, we are going to be submitting your program designs as well to the department for all of these, because the department, in addition to us evaluating them, the department is also going to be evaluating any provider that wants to be held out of the service code that they have deemed most appropriate. So outside of that, we don't have, yeah, Medi, go ahead. Or is that a hand raise? Yes, Medi.
It is. I was trying to find the thing so I could do my hand raise. So thank you for catching my visual. So I have a question in regards to program designs and 055 going into a different service, right? We're going to go to a day program. So say we have a day program, a 055 program, and we wanted to switch, we wanted it to be like a day program, right? It looks like a day program. We're going to go to ADP. Would we need to submit a new program design for that during this transition?
No. So on the acknowledgement form, we would indicate that you're moving from 055 to 531. And then on there, we would indicate what your new rate is based off of the ratio of your program. And again, the way this looks, and we will continue to have discussions with the department about it as they get the exemption requests. But for those 1-to-1 055 programs or 063 programs, the rate that is on the rate table goes up to 1-to-2. The 1-to-2 would also be the same as the 1-to-1 rate at this time. So that is how our regional center has interpreted this, until it changes and they decide that 1-to-1 should be at a higher hourly rate. In essence, and we're gonna have to figure this out because it's gonna look weird to have the 1-to-2 ratio, but each individual would have that rate available for them, like that $42 an hour, something to that effect. So other questions?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And again, we will be providing more updates next week specifically about the acknowledgement form. We just want to have an opportunity to run a couple things by some of our service providers. So I saw Lindsay on there. Hi, Lindsay. We'll be reaching out to you probably shortly, and other folks that are part of our, again, board or provider advisory committee, just to take a look at these things. All right, I want to share briefly that I think my staff, one of you can drop into the chat the mileage reimbursement rates, if you don't mind. Okay, so I am going to actually throw it over to Shift Care. So that you guys got to hear a lot about what's going on here in our local service area. So throw it over to you guys, and you guys both have the ability to share your screen, I believe.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, and just for a brief introduction, my name is Casey. Connor's here as well. I'm just going to do a brief introduction into what Shift Care is and where we're coming from, and then Connor's going to go into a demonstration of just a high-level view of how we could have currently been helping service providers. And so, as you can see, Shift Care was built specifically for the disability space. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar, but it was primarily built for NDIS in Australia, which is fully focused on the disability space. We have about 4,700 agencies that we work with that are in that space, and we have a lot of functionality to help with the day-to-day processes, which will be touched on here in just a moment. We do want to make sure, like throughout any of this time, that obviously we're going to quickly go through what Shift Care can do, but we want to make sure if you have any follow-up questions to please feel free and reach out. We can schedule time to go into a little more in-depth information, and I'm going to also share the link to that regional center website as well, and then throw it over to Connor.
Yeah, thanks so much, Casey, for that that background, and just want to thank you, John, and Alta California for having us. Very excited to present to you guys, and the reason we're here is actually service providers themselves. So, like Casey was saying, started in Australia. We predominantly work with facilities and non-medical home care agencies here in the US. But purely out of accident, we had so many regional center service providers reach out to us because of three things, and three things that our software does that seems to be designed really well for the regional center. So we're going to keep it super high level. If this aligns with you at all, feel free to reach out. We dropped our information in the chat, but we're mostly going to focus on the operations of like a regional center service provider that's providing service in a client's home, just because that's the level of complexity that I'd say matches, transportation, facilities, all of that is built in there as well. But I'll go ahead and share the software, but let me share my screen here. And what you should see is just a high level view of the scheduler of Shift Care.
Looks good.
So is this showing up for you?
Yep, looks good.
Okay, great. So the big three things we help with is managing care, regional center reporting, that's like incident report management, as well as providing exports per service code for hours worked with those care notes, ADLs, any incidents or notes tracked per shift. That can be tracked hourly or per day for those daycare type services. And then for the managing of care, there's a lot of accountability. So for administrators of agencies, what we have right here is our scheduler. This is the admin view. You're going to see on the left side, we can filter by clients on the left. We're going to see all of our clients and their hours worked. So if they have a max hours of 400 per service code per month, we can actually see how many hours they're scheduled this week. Additionally, we can click into any shift. Freddie Mercury, one of my favorite clients. If we click onto this shift with me here and we click edit, we'll see that we are defaulting to his demo price book. So we can set up different service codes. If let's say you're offering multiple services to a single client, and that's what we're going to track against. We can also include things like expenses and mileage tracking. Just like John was saying, we can set up a rate for that mileage reimbursement rate. And then what we'll do is we'll set up a shift, and that could be recurring. So maybe it happens every Tuesday and Thursday for the next 4 months. And what's great about that is we can either assign that directly to a direct care staff, or one thing that's huge in the disability space that I've seen a lot and gotten a lot of positive feedback from is we actually have a Teams functionality. So we can build teams around your clients, making sure there's a high continuity of care. And then let's say there is specific training or ADUs you require for specific service codes. We can make sure only the staff that's qualified for those service codes are going out and seeing those clients. And then, of course, we can build out mandatory notes, mandatory ADLs, geolocated clock in, clock out. This works the same for facilities as well. So every time a service, one of your team members is seeing one of your clients, you can confirm that those tasks are being performed, and we actually have detailed goal tracking that we can build in as a component of a care plan that will pull onto every shift. Additionally, we can build out, I've done incident report management trainings with the Westside Regional Center. We can build out an entire custom form for your incident report management. Your direct care staff can fill out their side on the spot, take photos, manage it. You as the admin can fill out your side of things, and then that can either be faxed or emailed to your regional center. I can't remember how it works at Alta. And then when it comes time for paying your staff, we have exports for payroll systems. And then additionally, when it comes time to let's say send your hours to the regional center, we can actually export per client, per service code, what's happened on every shift for the entire time you use shift care. So perfect example, like John was saying, backdating to January 1st, you can just pull a report and we can see Freddie was seen. Here's the progress notes. This was the time in, time out, and the task completed. You can ignore the client signature. That can turn into a staff signature if you like. But this is the level of like tracking and detail we have. So think like audit readiness. Think, if things are going well now, that's great. But one thing ShiftCare is doing is we're helping these service providers have more capacity in the back office to manage their documentation, potentially take on more clients, and just generally manage care with a lot more comfort, knowing that things are being tracked appropriately. So we might have time for like one or two questions. I don't want to push in too much of John's time here, but feel free to drop them in the chat, and then we can answer them as we go. And if not, you can, of course, take down our contact information and we can answer those as well.
So these guys were across the street at the Hilton doing a conference, and then saw the Alta sign, I think, and literally knocked on our door and walked up to my office and told me about their platform. And that's how they ended up here today. So you can just walk up to a regional center as well, guys, if you want to. There's a bunch of questions that are coming into the chat right here. Would love to be able to get you guys connected with each of these service providers that may have an interest. We are really trying to push this kind of tech-first approach to trying to address a lot of service provider staffing challenges, and keeping track of things also roll into workforce issues significantly for you as service providers. And so that's why you're seeing a number of these presentations during Coffee with Community Services. Australia with the switch in, was it 2013 to the National Disability Insurance Scheme. Like, there's a number of these companies that originate out of Australia as well. And so you may be hearing from more of them too. But the main thing is just making sure that you're aware of these types of platforms that you as service providers can utilize, and they can integrate a lot of the activities that you do in your communication, whether it's to your clients and families, but also to the regional center.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, John. And one last thing I want to note, Casey and I, as well as the team in Australia, know the work that's being done with the regional centers is super incredible work. Very thankful to be presenting to you guys. And one thing we also offer is just an ongoing 40% discount to regional center service providers to make it more accessible. So you can talk to Casey and I about that after, but thank you so much for the time.
Awesome. You guys are great. Thank you very much. I saw, I know Michelle Johnson's on here, and Jennifer Bloom as well, our directors of client services, but just wanted to do a plug for everyone that we do have some upcoming Alta events, including we have our upcoming community meeting. And so our community meeting is on February 5th. This is an opportunity for you to hear a lot of great updates. And this is a meeting, we do coffee with community services, and there's a lot of high level discussion about vendorization and vendor related issues. But the community meeting is really meant to provide information to a more general audience. But I would really encourage you as service providers to listen in as well. And I just appreciate our executive management team that works in getting an agenda out for that this time around. I think we're going to have, at least somewhat related to this group, we're going to have Sharon Krupinski do a presentation related to money management, keeping your money safe for clients. All right, and then additionally, we have on, we're looking forward to it. We have a vendor fair coming up for independent living services, which does not on our calendar for some reason. It is not on here, but we do have a vendor fair for ILS providers. We will make sure that that is out to all of our service coordinators and staff so that they can make it there. I do want to highlight, we are going to have coffee with community services next Friday, where we're going to be giving a bunch of updates. But the week after that, there's the Housing Rights and Common Landlord Tenant Issues webinar. If you guys want to check that out, Disability Rights California, or I think it is them, Disability Rights is partnering with that one. But so many of you deal with tenancy issues with your individuals that you support. And so I think just in general, having yourselves, your DSPs informed about housing rights and landlord tenant issues would be helpful. So just want to let you know that that webinar will be there. And then of course the supported decision making, I don't want to say roadshow, but we're taking supported decision making trainings throughout our catchment area. And those are on there as well. And then you can see some of our additional activities, Deaf and Hard of Hearing, Black History, Family Engagement, and of course our SDAC. I want to throw it over to Pride Industries, if I can, for some additional information about the program. Heidi?
Perfect, thank you. I'm going to share my screen. I am conscious of time, so I'll make sure I go just quick enough to keep your interest, but not too long to make your meeting go over. So if you can just give me a thumbs up if you are able to view a PowerPoint in full screen. Okay, perfect. Let me just adjust. We don't use Zoom at Pride, so I just need there we go. Now I can see everybody. If I divert my eyes this way, it's because I use 3 screens. So please know that I'm still focusing on you. So my name is Heidi Little. I'm one of the directors at Pride Industries, and I'm also the lead on our internship program. So I wanted to just spend a few minutes sharing with you some of the enhancements that we've done as far as data-driven goals that we monitor for our interns, as well as a call to action for you to send your interns our way so that we can provide them with an amazing opportunity, both internally of Pride and externally. So just if you're not familiar with Pride, or if today's your first day on the job, Pride is actually hitting almost 60 years. We were created from parents who advocated for their adult children with disabilities to have access to employment. And since then, we are thrilled to announce that we are one of the leading employers of people with disabilities, and I am grateful to work with Pride. We view our internship as an opportunity for access to employment. So with speaking with our interns, we have kind of created highlights of what they see as the benefits of an internship program. Some of these, I'm sure you're nodding in agreement, it gains the real world experience for them. It allows them to develop their technical and interpersonal skills if that's areas of growth. They explore career paths and refine their interest. A lot of times, as far as internships go, some folks just don't know what they want to do yet. Or maybe their strengths have not been maximized to its fullest potential. So they're still kind of seeking what it is that fits them and what they fit for other occupations. Internships allow them to gain that experience to do that. It enhances their resume and employability. One of the things that we offer in our internship programs is a letter of recommendation after our exit interview. So our interns go with an updated resume, even if it's their first one, and a letter of recommendation from their internship. And then, of course, it is one of the leading ways for potential pathways to employment. What you see listed in front of you, and I'll share this PowerPoint as well, are just some of the internal placements. Pride Industries really believes in we do what we ask others to do. We're going to agencies, corporations, employers, and we're saying, please let us provide an intern to you, give it an opportunity, open your doors. Well, we model that behavior by opening all of our lines of businesses. So as you look on this screen, this is just some of the many lines of businesses within Pride that have said, you give us the interns, we will host them within our own departments. And of course, all the way on the bottom, I'll give a plug for my team, Workforce Inclusion. So these are just some. I put an asterisk up there just to guide your eyes to also there's potential for external placements. Today I'm highlighting internal, but we also do take the referrals that you will send and do external placements as well with the supports and the same process that I'm going to review with you in just a minute. So what does the internship look like and what will potential clients experience as you refer them over to Pride? One of the things is we aligned our applicants' potentials with their goals and the employer needs. We do that through an interest process. So all the clients share their interests, their skill sets, what they're great at, maybe what supports or accommodations they may need. And we're also having all the lines of businesses and our partnerships send us what we call a proposal form about what it is that they're looking for, what skill sets are they acquiring, what needs can we fill with our interns, and we marry those two or we partner them. We do a candidate matching through that process where we're aligning strengths and areas of focus to areas of needs for internships or potential employers. We select the candidate. They do participate in an interview process where they have an opportunity to present themselves. If that internship is not granted to them, if it's just not the right one, they're put in a queue. So no one's ever forgotten, tossed aside. If they're not ready for an internship, as we do some of our kind of competency assessments on them, then we still put them in the queue for potentials of upcoming internships. We walk them through an onboarding process where they get technology, they get support, they learn about Pride, they learn about their employer, that potentially if it's an external, and then we start the internship. One of the biggest enhancements are those last two pieces that you see on your screen. One is the monitor of progress. All interns identify 2 to 3 SMART goals. They are written as just as SMART goals are. They're specific, they're measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. And we monitor those through our database, which is SetWorks, every single week. We're asking, what has the intern done that week? They fill it out themselves. Sometimes their manager fills it out. And then we monitor that and align every activity, everything they're involved with their area of growth so that we're maximizing the potential. We're monitoring if they set a goal, did they meet it? Did we need to pivot? And why? So when they exit that internship, they not only can go to their employer or go to possibly the line of business, and we've been able to retain full-time employment for several of our interns that went through this program, and they can speak to, these are the areas of strength that I have. These are the task projects, accomplishments that I've achieved over my internship of X amount of hours, depending on the funding source. And this is what I'm ready to do. Here's my letter of recommendation. Here's my resume. So it is really data-driven and kind of in the 21st century, right? We want them to walk away with a skill set, but also some documentation that supports that. And we gather a lot of information through our exit surveys. We meet with them one-on-one and we ask, what did we do great? What do we need to improve on? How can we help our partners improve their internship opportunities as well? We gather that and we're constantly refining our service. We're constantly refining what we do because nothing's perfect the first time around. I'd like to end just with one example. It's hard to choose, but Alex gave me permission to share his story and his picture. This is Alex. He's one of our recent interns who's actually got a full-time employment under me, actually. He works with me. He started in our marketing department, doing a lot of videography with our department there. He learned some skills. He had a knack or a want, desire, or strength to help support the directors, and he's great with technology. So he is hired on as a full-time employee. He's just finishing up his 1 year with Pride this month. And one of the quotes that I felt was powerful to share with you today is he marked his internship as life-changing in general. So really just echoing that impact that oftentimes internships is the way in. It's the one way that folks can get into employment. And I urge you all to send them our way. So the call to action for you, the request for you is to identify employment-ready clients and share that information with Pride Industries. Even if you're on the fence and you're like, I'm not quite sure, but I'd like to send it anyway. Partner with Pride to create meaningful pathways. There's 2 contacts for you. One, you've got your referral ready to go today, right now at 12:01. Send it to referrals@prideindustry.com. If you have any questions, concerns, ahas, need clarification of what I shared with you today, or just want examples or additional information, you can email me directly at Heidi Little, Heidi.Little@prideindustry.com. prideindustries.com. So I will share this with you all so that you have access to it. But I thank you for your few minutes of time today, and I am looking forward to partnering together and to enhancing our internship program with the folks that you identify. I hope that wasn't too fast for you.
No, it's perfect. And I just want to say I love the slide with the internship. We Carly and I were at the ARCA, the Association of Regional Center Agencies Employment Committee yesterday, and they're talking about success stories or positive stories that we can share related towards moving individuals, towards employment. And so thank you for having a very succinct slide that's got a great message to it. And it made me think immediately of my first internship that changed my life. I worked at Hiram Johnson High School as an intern long time ago, to be a social worker and maybe become a social worker. So awesome. Thank you so much for sharing Pride Industries.
Thank you.
And don't hesitate to reach out to Heidi if you have any questions. In the chat, there's a couple things. Christy Schaefer's put information about the caregiver support group. The Turning Point Community Programs START program is putting it together. So please take a look at that flyer. If you have any questions, certainly you can reach out to Turning Point directly or Christy. And also Jessica has put the flyer in there for recruitment related to some of our different service providers. So please take a look at the EI, the early intervention, occupational therapy, physical therapy. These are services as we continue to expand our services. We need to ensure that we've got the services for the little ones. And so that's in there too. We will go over those even more next week as well. There's a lot of great questions and comments that were put in the chat today related to shift care. And so I just want to encourage you all to send that over to them, any of your questions. And anyone can be EVV compliant in 2025, right? So yes, that's a great question though for the shift care folks as they're looking at trying to expand their market into the California. Connor, EVV compliant, thumbs up?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, that's a good thing to end with then. Perfect. I really just want to thank you all, the service providers, the patients as we work on rolling out the rate reform. And also I want to acknowledge you. I was going to have Scott share the information about STEPS training that Kylie shared last week, but it sounds like we got a bunch of responses from you all. And so thank you all. That it helps when our service providers put these trainings out and we're able to advertise them here at Coffee with Community Services, and you take advantage of them. Again, it means that we have a better trained workforce. And so just really appreciate all of you that signed up for that. All right. Thanks, folks. Have a great day and a great weekend. And we'll look forward to talking to folks next week. Take care.